London, 1960s. The streets are buzzing, swinging jazz fills the air, and celebrities crowd the city's hottest nightclub. Champagne flows, flashbulbs pop, and the rich mingle with royalty. But behind the velvet curtain, far from the cameras and cocktails, sit two men who don't smile. Twin brothers, suits sharp, eyes colder than steel. Their names, Ronnie and Reggie Kray. And tonight, they're deciding who lives and who disappears. By the time they turned 30, the Kray Twins had turned London's East End into their personal kingdom. Nightclubs, rackets, boxing rings, even politicians. They owned it all. Movie stars shook their hands. Ordinary people crossed the street to avoid their gaze. They weren't just criminals, they were icons, untouchable, unstoppable. But here's the twist. The same blood bond that built their empire, made them brothers, made them legends, is what eventually tore everything apart. You've heard of Al Capone. You've seen the mafia stories from New York. But the Kray Twins? They took crime, wrapped it in silk and fame, and sold it back to a city that couldn't look away. This isn't just a gangster tale. It's a story of fame, fear, loyalty, and destruction. And you're about to hear it all. The Kray Twins were born in 1933 in London's tough East End, right in the middle of World War II. Bombs fell, families struggled, and survival was everything. Ronnie and Reggie grew up in poverty, raised by a strong mother and a mostly absent father. In those streets, being tough wasn't optional. It was the only way to survive. And the Kray boys didn't just survive, they dominated. From an early age, both boys loved fighting. Reggie trained as a boxer. Ronnie leaned more into fear and control. He was unpredictable, even dangerous. Reggie was calmer, more calculated. He dreamed of going straight one day, of building something real. But he could never leave Ronnie behind. Wherever one twin went, the other followed. But the real twist? They didn't just stay street thugs. They became businessmen, entrepreneurs of crime. They opened flashy nightclubs where they rubbed shoulders with movie stars, musicians, and even politicians. Suddenly, they weren't just gangsters, they were celebrities. Their photo was in the papers. They wore sharp suits and smiled for cameras. But behind the charm was real fear. The police knew who they were, but witnesses vanished. Trials collapsed. No one dared speak. The Krays weren't hiding. They were in plain sight and still untouchable. The fall of the Kray Twins' empire came crashing down after two brutal murders shocked London's underworld and the public alike. George Cornell was shot dead in a crowded East End pub, a murder so bold and public that it sent waves of fear and disbelief through the city. Not long after, Jack the Hat McVitie, a man closely connected to the twins, was brutally killed in a savage attack. These killings were no longer just rumors or whispers in dark alleys. They became undeniable proof that the Krays' reign of terror had spiraled out of control. The public outrage and media frenzy forced Scotland Yard to take serious action. No longer able to ignore the twins' violent grip on the city, the police launched a full-scale investigation. For years, the Code of Silence, or Omerta, had protected the Krays. Witnesses were too scared to speak, and trials often collapsed under intimidation. But now cracks appeared in that wall of silence. Insiders who once swore loyalty began to flip, revealing secrets and lies. The walls were closing in on the infamous brothers. Like many powerful duos, the very bond that built their strength eventually became toxic. Ronnie's mental instability and violent outbursts put them both at risk. His unpredictable nature made enemies and allies equally uneasy. Reggie, who once dreamed of a quieter life, found himself trapped by his brother's dark spiral and the violent empire they had built together. As the police tightened their grip, Reggie attempted to flee the chaos, hoping to save what was left of his freedom, but it was too late. In 1968, after a long, intense investigation, both twins were arrested. Their glamorous era of clubs, fame, and fear came to an abrupt end. The Kray Twins, who had once ruled London's criminal world with style and steel, were finally behind bars, ending an unforgettable chapter of crime and legend. The Kray Twins' empire finally began to crumble after two shocking murders rocked London's underworld. George Cornell was shot dead in a crowded pub, an act so bold it stunned the city. Then came the murder of Jack the Hat McVitie, a brutal killing that crossed a line even for the hardened criminals around them. These killings caught the full attention of Scotland Yard. No longer could the police turn a blind eye. Slowly, insiders started to talk. The Mafia's code of silence, once unbreakable, began to crack. People who feared the twins started flipping, revealing secrets that put the brothers in the crosshairs of justice. Like many powerful duos, the very bond that made the Krays strong became their downfall. Ronnie's growing instability made them both dangerous. His unpredictable violence and erratic behavior put not only himself but also Reggie in serious danger. As the police closed in, Reggie tried to escape the nightmare, hoping to start fresh. But it was too late. The law had surrounded them. In 1968, their reign of fear and glamour came to an end. The twins were arrested, their empire shattered. The East End's Dark Kings were finally behind bars, bringing an end to an era when crime wore a tuxedo and violence played to a captivated audience. The Kray Twins once saw themselves as untouchable icons, rulers of London's underworld who could bend the city to their will. They lived like kings, confident that their power was endless. But power built on fear always has an expiration date. No matter how many enemies you silence or how many smiles you flash to the cameras, eventually the walls close in. Their fame, which made them celebrities, became the trap that ended their reign. The same flashing cameras that once captured their glamorous nights and violent deeds now documented their public trial. The world was watching, but this time it wasn't awe or admiration. It was judgment. The lights that once highlighted their power now exposed their downfall. Ronnie and Reggie, who had been inseparable since childhood, were torn apart. Sent to different prisons, they aged alone, far from the noisy clubs and flashing cameras. No more respect, no more fear, just silence. Forgotten by the city they once ruled, they became shadows of their former selves. Men haunted by what they had built and what it had cost them. Their story is a powerful reminder that crime might buy fame, but it never guarantees loyalty, peace, or happiness. The bonds forged by violence and ambition often crack under pressure. No empire built on fear lasts forever. The twins who ruled London with style and steel died as broken men, their legacy a dark warning. Even the brightest legends can fade into the shadows, and sometimes the cost of power is the very thing that destroys you. Ronnie Kray spent his final days locked away in a psychiatric hospital, his mind shattered by years of violence and paranoia. Reggie, after serving time in prison, was released just weeks before his own death. No empire remained, no dazzling nightclubs or powerful friends. Just two old men haunted by memories, regrets, and ghosts from a life filled with crime and bloodshed. Their story is not just about gangsters and violence. It's about brotherhood, ambition, and the steep price of chasing a legend. The Kray Twins lived fast, loved fiercely, and ruled with fear. But in the end, their bond was both their greatest strength and their deepest weakness. If you found this story gripping, don't forget to hit subscribe for more true crime tales you won't find in any school book. These are stories that reveal the hidden truths behind the headlines, stories of power, betrayal, and human complexity. Now, we want to hear from you. Were the Kray Twins cold-blooded villains or victims of their own ambition and upbringing? Drop your thoughts in the comments below and let's start the conversation.